Hey everyone, how you doing? It's Mary Fane Brandt with a LinkedIn Bakery, serving up bite-sized tips so you don't get overwhelmed. And this is Bite-Sized Tips for Busy Entrepreneurs. You can find me here every first and third Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And whoops, there we go. I'm super excited to have Hawley Woods Gray, yes, that's her name, Hawley Woods, on our show tonight. Hawley, go ahead and say hi to everyone.
Hi everyone, how you doing?
So Hawley and I, we first met, you guys, back, I think it was like Moms Helping Moms networking group. And Hawley actually was a client of mine. And she is in the financial industry with Appreciation Financial. And she also has, go ahead, say hi. There you go.
Hi.
She also has Wow Women of Wealth. And you know what I call February? February is the F month. We talk about financials because we all need to take care of our finances, you guys. We can't ignore that, especially as entrepreneurs and small business owners. We really need to make sure that we're planning for retirement. So why this isn't about marketing or bots or Facebook groups, this is a really important topic that we're going to talk about tonight and dig into. And we want to know what questions you have. And if we don't answer your question live, Hawley and I promise that we will go back on and answer them after we're done. And by the way, if you're watching the replay, can you just type hashtag replay? Because I want to know when you're watching and also where you're watching from. So please go ahead and drop that in the comments below. So I'm going to turn this over to Hawley. We're going to be talking about setting yourself up for the retirement that you deserve. So Hawley, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in the financial industry?
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Mary, for having me on your show. I'm really looking forward to interacting with your people and getting to know some of them. Well, for me personally, I started in financial services a long time ago in the real estate industry. I was in mortgages, and that was before we had the big recession of 2008, 2009. And so during that time, I thought it was going to be a great idea to start a volleyball club in conjunction with my mortgage business. So my husband and I, we started a nonprofit volleyball club in the middle of the recession, and that just did not go the way that we had planned. And I'll be talking more about that in a little bit because some of the stuff that happened during that time has really helped me, I think, become a better financial person or retirement specialist, because I do and I am able to answer those tough questions and really relate to what's going on in the business side.
Because you know what it's like going through a recession and probably being financially strapped. I mean, who hasn't been financially strapped at one time or another? You guys, I'm going to raise my hand. I'm going to be really authentic here, right? Hawley's raising her hand. Who hasn't been financially strapped at some point or financially strapped right now? So many Americans live paycheck to paycheck. I've been there. I know what it's like. And so I don't want you to be embarrassed about that. We're doing this show really to educate everyone. And that's the whole purpose of these bite-sized tip entrepreneur shows. So Hawley, I'm so glad that you can relate to where people might be at right now.
Absolutely. So back then I was trying to figure out how I was going to save the volleyball club, and I had done some personal and professional development in my life through PSI seminars, and they have a program where you can go back and you can re-audit and staff a class. And so that's what I did, is I went back and staffed a class. One of my friends was a facilitator. He wanted me to come out and staff. So I met the founders of Appreciation Financial while I was in that class. And from there, I thought that their program might be a way for me to save my volleyball club because they had something to help nonprofit organizations, but it turned out it was my next career, and I love it. I've been doing this for the last 7.5 years.
That's fabulous. Yay.
Yay, yes. And so one of the things that's really important, like we were talking about, is regardless of where you are, you have to be honest with your point A. You got to know where you're starting from in order to get where you want to go. And so sometimes it's hard to talk about those tough times in our lives, like we just mentioned, where like you have a business that isn't doing as well as you thought it might. You have to go back and take a job, or maybe you have some blemishes on your credit, or being an entrepreneur, you didn't know about how to prepare yourself for taxes. And so maybe you have some years that you have to go back and pay. All of that stuff is really important for you to get really familiar with and be able to talk about. because everybody has something.
Right?
Yeah.
You gotta, so you guys, I just want to interject that I think that what Hawley is saying is we all have a little dirt. And you know what? We need to own that, and we need to know what that dirt is, because you can't clean that dirt off if you don't know you have it, right? So It's kind of starting, like, I don't know, with just being honest and a credit check and figuring out what's going on, and right?
Yeah, and it's so much easier than it's ever been before. There's so many free services where you can check your credit report. There's so many people out there that can help you repair things. There's so many, like we're looking at possibly purchasing a second home pretty soon. And doing that, I had to run my credit. And, my loan officer is like, oh, you have a high balance on this card and that card. Well, one of my things that I like to do is pay off my credit cards when I have the opportunity, or at least pay them down as much as I can each month. But if they run it at a time when I have a high balance on my card, that's just something you need to know, right? You need to know, when are they going to check it, and when does it show that it's paid and not paid. And so these are just little things that, you might be totally fine with your credit card, but if they run it on the 15th of the month, it's going to show you have a higher balance than if they run it on the 1st of the month. So
I also heard that one of the things that I heard was that you don't want to have more than a 30% balance of your credit limit. So if you have a math is not my thing, you guys, but let's say you have a $5,000 credit limit, you only want to have, I really can't figure that out, 2,000? Mm-hmm. Right, around $2,000.
Around 2,000, yeah.
So just because you have a credit card with a $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 credit limit and you pay every month and you pay over your balance or over your minimum payment, doesn't mean that that's going to help your credit. You actually have to keep that balance at 30% or lower. I learned that as we are, working on our credit and looking at buying a house as well. So these are the things that we're learning.
Right, absolutely. And so the other thing that you want to look at once you have figured out where you are is you want to figure out where you're going. And everybody has a different destination. Like some people, they want to have a fully funded retirement because they have a plan where they're going to travel and they're going to spend time with their grandkids, and they have a plan of what they want to do in retirement. Other people, they might want to sell everything and go sail around the world in a boat. Other people might be looking to downsize, move to a different state like we were talking about. Yeah. Or even out of the country. I have a lot of clients that retire and then they move to Mexico or they move somewhere in Europe because that's where they're from. They have family there. So really whatever your plan is, whatever financial freedom looks like to you. Some people want to be in a position where they can quit their job early and retire and maybe go do philanthropic work. Maybe they want to go, give back someplace. So financial freedom or liberty or however you call it is going to be different for every single person. So you want to know what that means to you. What would it take for you to be financially free? And that's something that you would need to possibly work with somebody to get those questions answered. Because again, it looks different for everyone. For me, it's going to be totally different than somebody else. I have a 5-year-old, so I'm going to be working a lot longer than most of my friends because I had him when I was 43 years old, right?
Good for you. Yay.
Yeah, so, financial freedom for me has to do with me being in a place where I can go visit him when he's in college. And yes, I might be retired, I might still be working, but it also looks like me being able to work in his classroom on Friday afternoons because I work in his classroom every Friday. So that's part of my financial freedom that's happening now, even though I'm still working. So it doesn't have to be like you stop working because you have the financial freedom. It just really depends on whatever it is for you.
So you guys, let's make sure that you understand that money isn't the end-all, be-all. I like to say that money allows freedom, or it gives you freedom. The freedom to make choices, whatever those choices are for you. So like Hawley said, it might be to buy that second home. It might be to travel. For my husband and I, we want to move to Arizona. That's not a secret. We keep talking about it, and we're on a 5-year plan to hopefully move out there and be on the lake and work, not retirement, but that's our 5-year goal, to move to a place that's not as expensive as San Diego. So we actually can retire, because if we stay in San Diego, we'll never be able to retire here. It's just too expensive for us. And we want a slower paced lifestyle. So you got to know where, so far Hawley has said, you got to know where you stand. You got to know what your credit is, what your blemishes are. You really need to get a snapshot of your credit history and your financials. And step 2 is you need to understand or define what your end goal is. Is it to sell everything and travel? Is it to buy a second house? Is it to hang out with the grandkids? And I think also with that, Holly, is at what age are you looking to retire? Like, I think where people are working longer, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's funny enough, I met with a lady the other day and she's like, oh yeah, I want to just run this by my dad's guy. He's 80 years old and still working in financial services. I'm like, yeah, do whatever you need to do, you know? But at the same time, it's like people are working longer, you know? And so those bring up some other concerns as well. There's a guy that I do a lot of, I get a lot of my education from. His name is Tom Hanga. And so what he talks about is having paychecks and playchecks. He talks about there being three phases. I know, right? Isn't that fun?
Paychecks and playchecks.
Right.
Yes.
So in retirement, have both of those. He also talks about that there's three different areas of your retirement that you're going to need to plan for. You're going to want to plan for the go-go years. That's usually in the beginning because once you retire, you can go, right? So you have the financial resources to go and you have the physical body to go, right? And so that's usually from the first maybe 5, 10, depending on how early you retire, to 5, 10, maybe till you're in your late 70s, or just depends on when people start slowing down, right? It's going to be different for everyone. That's another phase of the financial planning and financial literacy that you want to look at. And you want to see, like, what is your history, your family history? Do you have longevity in your family? Do you still have a parent if you're in your 50s or 60s, and do you still have a parent that's living? How old are they? How long did their sister and brothers live? I have my aunt and uncle. So I spent a lot of time with them. My uncle's in his late 70s. He's going to be 80 at the end of this year. And so they're in a phase now that's called the no-go years. Like they don't go. They could go if they wanted to, and they still go some places, but they make a lot fewer choices. Like we invited them to go on a cruise with us because they play grandma and grandpa for my 5-year-old.
Right.
And so we invited them to go on a cruise with us, and they're like, we did that early in our retirement. We don't want to do that anymore. We don't want to go do that anymore. They can physically do it. They just don't really want to, right?
So that's funny. That's kind of like my dad. So my dad is going to be like 76 this year. And they did their Alaskan cruise last year. But I just talked to my dad and he's like, I think I'm getting old. I'm like, no, you're not, Dad. He's like, no, I'm slowing down. He doesn't want to go, like he doesn't want to travel. He's done everything I think that he wants to do. And now he's at that, I just want to hang out at the house and I just want to go on the boat and I'm good. Like that's the stage that he's at.
Yeah. And so everybody gets to that place differently. And then there's what's called the no-no years, where you're not going anywhere even if you wanted to because your body has told you that you're not doing that anymore. Maybe it's because you don't have your driver's license, or maybe it's just because health-wise you're just not able to. However, you know, like my mom had multiple sclerosis almost my entire life. In the last 10 years or so, she lived at a facility. She still wanted to go a lot of places. It's just that she was prohibited because her body wouldn't allow it anymore. Right. And so those are like real conversations that I have with people regularly. And they're not fun, but there is definitely ways to plan that you do have more liberty during that time and more financial freedom if you take care of things earlier.
That's great.
So, you know, one of the things that we don't talk a lot about are money, budgeting, saving, spending, investing, owning a business, inheritance, trust, taxes, probate.
That's because those are not fun words. There's no social media. I'm not making any money. I'm not doing fun pictures. No, you're right. So that's why I call February the F, I call it the F month. And everyone's like, what? What's Mary saying? I'm like, finances. Because finances is an ugly word. We don't like to talk about it. I know people that are super, super private, and I get it. It's a private thing, but we have to be open and we have to start talking about our finances and where we're at, what we need to fix and what our goals are, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The sad thing is we don't talk about it in our own homes. Oh. You know, I have met with women before that have said, oh, my husband deal with that. And that's one of my areas where I'm like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not letting your husband deal with that, because I also have had clients that their husbands dealt with that and then he passed away and they bring me like trash bags full of statements they never opened, just just things that they didn't want to look at. And I get it, right? It's tough and it's emotional and all that kind of stuff. But it's also good for everyone to know, whether it would be a man that I ran into and he says, my wife takes care of that. I'd be like, go girl, but you need to know what's going on too, mister. Like we want to make sure that you're educated as well.
And we just had this conversation on Super Bowl Sunday because let's all talk about that game. It was boring. Right?
Yeah.
So us women went in the living room, had tea, and we were talking just about life, right? And that there's always one person that like manages the finances. There's always the spender and the saver.
Right.
There's typically the spender and the saver. And we were just talking about that. And in all transparency, my husband, he's been paying the bills just because I don't have time. I don't want to do it anymore. But we sit down and do a monthly budget, right?
Yeah.
And then on paydays, like we're sitting down so I know where we're at in things. Even though he's, I guess, basically managing it, it's my responsibility as a woman to want to be involved in it.
Right. Absolutely. Because, there's a lot of ways that you can look at that too. For me and my husband, same thing. Like I do most of the bill paying and then I tell him like, okay, pay this bill, pay that bill for his own. But, we sit down and do our budget together as well. Which our budget is usually about the same every month. Sometimes, if we're saving for something, like right now we're looking to, possibly buy this house. So we're saving for something, so we're a little bit more aggressive about paying some stuff off that maybe we wouldn't have done so quickly or whatever. But it's good to talk about it. It's good to talk about, where you're at. It's also good to know where your important documents and papers are, like life insurance and trusts and all those things that you may or may not have set up. Because, we have a probate attorney in our family as well. And the saddest thing is when people don't have their stuff in order and then their kids are scrambling. Not only are they mourning, but they're scrambling to get the affairs in order. It's not my favorite thing to do, but one of the things that I offer my clients as a service is I'll sit down with your family and I'll let them know what you have. And then it also is really good. Like I have this one client, she's like, will you sit down with my sons? And then in case I lose my mind and I start dating somebody, cause she's a widower. If I start dating somebody, you'll be the one that tells me, no, you can't do that. This money goes to your kids, So, I said I would do that for her. I don't think that would stand up in a court of law or anything like that, but
right.
It's definitely me being a voice of reason for her and just meeting her family and explaining to them what she has in place for them. So they know that all the money that she has, she can spend really, because she has a plan in place for them as well. So that's another thing that we'll talk about a little bit later in the show is that, women are inheriting money faster than ever before.
Wait, what was that? Wait, what is that? Did I just hear you say women are inheriting money faster than men?
Yes. And then ever before.
Before. Okay. High fives right there.
Yeah. So what's really cool is this transfer of wealth is happening in the United States. And for the first time in the history of our country, women will own 2/3 of the wealth of our country, by 2020. And so by the end of 2020. And so the reason why is because this is our generation and a little bit older generation for the first time are inheriting their parents' money and their spouse's money. And it's never happened before because in the past, a lot of times the generations would only leave money to the males in the family because women didn't work outside the home. They weren't educated. But now we're educated, almost more like 51% of women are now more educated, right? And we also have higher incomes than we've ever had before. More women are working outside of the home. And so now families are leaving money to their daughters, just as regularly as they do to their sons. It's usually a fairly even split. A lot of times women are now the trustees and other things of businesses and whatnot, right? And so it's not like they're just turning their business over to their sons anymore. Women are now inheriting those businesses and whatever money that their family's leaving.
There's a lot of women locally, Anderson Plumbing or something like that's her business that she got in a divorce or something. But there's a lot of big businesses that are owned by women. So being a business owner or even the entrepreneur or solopreneur, right? The party of one.
Right.
So they don't have a 401k.
No.
Right?
Right.
So what is your advice to someone starting off, just, maybe they were in the corporate world and they were used to having that 401k, and now they're an entrepreneur and they're trying to like drum up the business, and maybe they're 2-3 years in, because they say it takes up to 5 years to actually get to be profitable for, a small business owner. So what is your advice? Have you worked with people like that? And what is your advice to someone that is becoming a solopreneur, entrepreneur, small business owner?
Well, I would say definitely make sure you pay yourself first. And what I mean by that is make sure that you do take care of those things. You want to make sure that you've set aside enough money for your taxes. I'm no tax expert, so you want to make sure that you have your team in place. Even if you're a solopreneur or an entrepreneur and you are a party of one, you still can have a team of people that help you, right?
So I have a tax accountant and I have a bookkeeper.
Perfect.
And I'm not a huge business, but having that bookkeeper, Carla Murillo, if you guys need her number, she's awesome. QuickBooks, she set it up. It's all done virtually, you guys.
Right.
So it's just done virtually. She does it every 6 months, because that's all I need her to do. And then I have a tax person. We turn everything over to her, and it is so worth having those two people.
Yes, absolutely. And so, you want to add other people to that too, right? You want to add somebody that can help you with your retirement planning, somebody that can help you understand what is best for you. So, a lot of people ask me all the time, what's best? Should I do an IRA or a Roth IRA, right? That's one of the questions you had, right? And so
I'm getting so much information because I'm at that point, right? The recession happened. We pulled ourselves out. Things are moving forward. And now it's at that point where, contributing to the 401k, I've been doing that. But as an entrepreneur, you have other options, right? Of how much you can put in. And I'm really curious. I want to learn more about where should I put, what are my options, and then learn about those so that I can make the right decision. So there's Roth IRAs, traditional 401ks, right?
Traditional IRA.
Or traditional IRA. I always say 401k.
Yeah, it's okay. So really, 401ks and traditional IRAs, they're very similar because they're both pre-tax savings plans. So if you work for a for-profit company, you'd have the option of saving, most companies, in a 401k. If you work for a non-profit company, you'd have an ability to save in like a 401a or a 403b. If you work for a government agency, it's usually a thrift savings plan or a 457. Okay. Or if you work for yourself, you can save in a self-employment plan, which is called a SEP IRA, or you can save in a traditional IRA. Okay. We'll talk a little bit about the traditional IRAs today. Really, the main thing to know about that is you can save in 2019 $6,000 a year, or if you're over the age of 50, you can save $7,000 a year.
That's a big chunk of change you can put away, and it's pre-tax.
Right, pre-tax. So what that does is that helps you at tax time. You can put that money in. Another thing that's nice about this, for 2018, you can put that money in all the way up until April 15th of 2019. So if you didn't save any money and you need that write-off, you can have that as a write-off. So that's really, really a nice benefit to having the traditional IRA. Some of the advantages of having those workplace savings plan is you can save more money in them. Sometimes companies do matching bonuses. I think we were talking about that earlier. But one thing to realize is if you don't have something like a pension that's coming, like our niche market is teachers. We work with anybody that wants our help. However, we are daily in the schools educating teachers on how their retirement works. And so they have a pension. So a big chunk of their income gap is going to be filled. I mean, a big chunk of their retirement is going to be filled with their pension. So they're going to have a very small income gap.
And we were talking about that, right?
Right,
so, Hawley and I were talking about that earlier. So basically, let's say you make, and I'm just going to say we make $100,000 a year. And then when you get your Social Security, we kind of were figuring this out. You're probably only going to get 25% of what you called replacement income.
Right. Yeah, replacement income is going to be about 25%. So if we take that same example of $100,000, and let's say you are putting away 12% into your 401k every year, let's say you have 20 years to save, that would be a total of $240,000 that you would save of your own money. Now let's just say you were able to get 4% compounding. Now remember, if your market is invested, if your money is invested in the market, you're not able to take advantage of compounding interest because every year it's different. There might be an average that you get, you might get an average of 4%, but that's not compounding. But just for the sake of being easy math, let's say you get a 4% and it's compounded and you save $12,000 a year for 20 years. At the end, you would have $357,000 roughly. Little bit and some change.
Right. And you did that math and it was,
yeah, it's almost
basically you'd get like 25,000 from Social Security and maybe 17,000 from your savings. That's still not replacing your, if you're making $100,000. And let's be real, folks, why you think you don't need that much money when you retire, right? You're thinking, well, I don't need as much money. I'm not, for whatever reason. You actually do, because things are going to cost more.
Well, and not only this, let me ask you a question, Mary. Yeah, let me ask you a question. What day do you spend the most money on typically?
What day?
Of the week? What day of the week?
Saturday.
Right, because you're not working, right?
Yeah, I was like, so like Saturday, my husband and I have date night and we're going out to dinner.
Right, so a lot of people, their answer is Saturday or Sunday. That's in retirement, every day is Saturday or Sunday, right?
Yeah, my dad says every day is 5 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. That's his thing. Like, it's happy hour every day at their house. And I just crack up. I'm like, how happy for my dad that he's like, it's time for happy hour, and he's just so excited because every day he has his little cocktail and they do a little happy hour. I mean, they do more than that, folks. I don't want to paint the wrong picture. But he's just super excited. Like, every day is happy hour for him. You're right. So every day is Saturday.
Right. Every day Saturday. So if you think that you don't need to replace your full income, you're probably kidding yourself. Unless, of course, you are one of those people that is going to sell everything and just sail around the world.
Yeah.
Right.
Amy said Saturday. She chimed in. She's like, Saturday, great analogy. So thanks, Amy, for joining us.
Yeah, so, most people that are not in a situation where they're going to have a pension, most people are going to need to have in their accounts over $1 million to keep their same lifestyle.
I heard that.
Right?
My friend's husband wasn't going to retire until he had $1 million. And he retired before 65. So before 65, and he hit his goal. And it's funny because now he wants to travel and do all kinds of fun things. And I'm like, yay, you go. No name mentioned, but you know who you are. But, he's like, I can't retire until I have that money. And I'm not close to retirement. And I'm like, wow, so I need to have $1 million. How am I going to get there?
Right. So let's talk about the Roth IRA, because that is an interesting way of saving. And although you can only save the $7,000, like I was mentioning, if you're older than 50 years old, a year, it is something that does have some great benefits, because
what are the benefits?
So you pay taxes. So like the traditional IRA, you don't pay taxes on the money now. You can write that off of your income, especially if you're self-employed, like we are entrepreneurs. You can write that off of your income.
That's a great tip, you guys.
Yes. If you do the Roth IRA, the great thing about that is you pay taxes on the money now, but when you take it out in retirement, you don't pay any taxes on it, right?
So that's a benefit.
So that's a benefit, because we don't know if taxes are going to go up or down, right? We know what they are today. We know what they are today.
I'm just like, I had an aha moment. I'm assuming taxes are going to go up. Taxes rarely go down in history. So why not pay the tax now, actually, when we're working and maybe have a little more income, versus when we're retired and we're on that fixed income?
Right. So the Roth IRA is actually a great option for that, because you also have, let's say you are putting the $7,000 a year in, you are able to get all of that tax-free growth, and when you take it out, you're not taxed on that. So you get to take all that money out tax-free. So it's a really nice, and that is another plan that you can put money into. If you didn't already put money into it in 2018, you can do that up until April 15th of 2019 for last year. So that's a really nice benefit of that. Some other plans that people can take advantage of is the self-employment plan. And so it's similar to, it's an IRA, and so it's a tax-deferred plan as well. But the nice thing about the SEP IRA is you can save more money in it. So I don't have the exact numbers, but I know last year was around $52,000 that you could put into it.
So you can put more money into it. Okay. Now, can you have multiple accounts, or is your money that you contribute, so I can put money in a 401k, a Roth, because I'm self-employed, and a self-employment account? I can actually have three different accounts?
You can. There are some rules around, if you are maxing out some areas, like let's say you're maxing out the 401k at work, then you may have some drawbacks to the traditional IRA, but you would just have to check with your tax person on that. Okay. They would know all the rules around that. And the reason,
that's why, you guys, that's why you need a tax person, because this stuff is complicated.
Exactly.
And it's not our cup of tea. If it was my cup of tea, right, then I would just be doing it myself. But I've got to use my strengths and my talents where I serve others best and myself. If I were to try to figure this all out by myself, I wouldn't have time for anything else.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That's why we need people like you and my tax person.
Right. Professionals. Right. It's so complicated. I don't understand it all either. That's why there's so many different sections in financial services, because I don't understand all of the taxes either. Right. I know a little bit more probably than the average person because I'm helping people in this area, and I ask my tax person a lot of questions for my people, and then I learn, what they need to do. A couple of the things about these plans that I want to mention is, one of the things with these, whether it's a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA, you do have to make sure that you qualify and before you start taking money out of them. And so the qualifying events for that is once you turn 59 and a half, then you don't get penalized if you take money out early. So if you're 59 and a half, you can start drawing that money out without any penalties. If you take money out of either plan before that time, you're going to be assessed a 10% penalty on that, and that's called the early withdrawal penalty. So that is something good to know. The other thing about the traditional IRA is that you have to start taking distribution on that by the time you're 70 and a half if you are retired. Okay, if you're still working, then you don't have that doesn't qualify you to start taking the money out. But if you're not working, if you're retired, you have to start taking the money out at 70 and a half. And the reason why is because you had all those pre-tax savings for all those years, and now the Uncle Sam IRS, they want to make sure that they start getting their money back, right? So they gave you a break.
There's no free money, really.
There is no free money. No, there's no free money. So that's why the Roth IRA is really appealing for people that can afford to do that, because it is a way for you to save the money, pay taxes on it now, and it doesn't matter when you take it out. You don't have to start taking it out at 70 and a half, but you will on any of the pre-tax savings plan. That goes for your 401ks, your 403bs. 457s have a little different rules, so do some of the other tax codes out there.
Okay.
That different plans have. So some people can take money out earlier. The other thing that I want to talk about, which is really where we are big in, is the insurance side of things, is you want to make sure that you are protected. A lot of people ask me, I'm not a health insurance agent or Medicare agent at all, but I do have people that I refer out for those types of insurance. But you do want to make sure that you understand what your health benefits are going to look like. Okay. That's probably one of the biggest concerns of my clients, and it's probably one of the biggest concerns for entrepreneurs is the health care.
Yeah, especially if you're self-employed, you have your own business, and a lot of people, if they're married, they might get on their spouse's insurance. Yes. But if you're not, right, and then what are you doing? And I know my dad's a big advocate for was it long-term care insurance, and making sure that when you get to that point in your life that you're actually covered.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so there's a lot of different plans available. Again, that is why you want to have a trusted professional on your team. We do ask a lot of questions, but it's not because we're nosy. It's because the only way we can educate you is we have to know what you already have in place and what you have set up, so that we can best advise you on what else you need to make sure you're covered. Because when we're looking at the plan, it's not just about the money. It's also about your health, your
and what do you need and what do you not need, right?
Right. Yes.
So and now that you said that, because that health and all that gets a little personal, embarrassing, and that we were talking before the show that talking about your finances, it can be embarrassing, and you don't want to share it all, but you guys are professionals, and I'm sure you have seen the gamut, right? Mm-hmm. So I want to encourage people, don't be embarrassed about your finances. You have to start somewhere. So whether you have late payments or bankruptcies or liens or whatever it is, don't be embarrassed about finding that out and sharing that with a professional. They're a professional and they're not going to go blast it out on Facebook or anything. They're here to help you, and all the information is confidential. And like I said, I'm sure you've seen the gamut of someone's financials, like from stellar financials to like person is basically starting out, right?
Right, absolutely. The other thing about that too is once you start getting honest with it, and actually once you start talking about it, it lessens the burden, because it's like it feels sometimes like when you have financial stuff come up that it's heavy on your shoulders, right? It's like, oh, I don't want somebody to know that my credit score sucks or that I had bankruptcy or whatever. But once you start talking about it, then you're like, oh, me too,
Right.
Oh wait. You had to do a short sell? Oh, guess what? Guess who else had to do that, right?
More people
Everyone else
in, the same
in America
boat than
pretty
you think.
much.
You're not the only one with credit issues, right?
Right. I mean, that's why the mortgage industry has had to change their rules, because so many people had foreclosures back in 2007, 2008, 2009, to where they had to change the rules to where that wasn't going to affect you like it did before. And I know that because I was in mortgages, and before it was like they would look at a 10-year history, and if you had a foreclosure, you couldn't get another loan. But now they had to change that, or else we'd still have so many people that were renting instead of rebuying houses again. So it is something good to talk about, and it's, you talk about it with somebody who has heard everything. Like I said, I've had clients that have brought me those trash bags that they haven't opened. They didn't want to see it, I mean, it's really good to know what kind of accounts you're invested in too, because there are several different types of accounts. And not every type of account is great for everybody. Some people really want to be in a risky situation where they can win big, but they can also lose big. Right. And some people like to do that. They like that experience of,
it's an adrenaline rush.
I guess.
I don't know.
I don't do that. That's not how we.
And also depending on your age and your lifestyle.
Right.
If you're younger, you have a little more time to take risks.
Right.
And if you have more money, maybe you have a little more flexibility in taking risks. So Bobby's like, once you share it, you get a teammate in your professional financial person. And Claire joined us. She said, great job, Hawley. This info is so important for our clients, friends, and loved ones. It is. And it's such a hard topic. It's such a hard topic that is not discussed at your dinner table, and it's not discussed casually with friends at brunch or Super Bowl party. And I want to change that. And I also want to change the stigma. We were talking about this that's attached with financial planners, because I feel that when someone says, oh yeah, I'm a financial planner, people go like this. They run and they hide. They're like, oh, I can't see you, right? Because I think there's a bad stigma attached with most financial planners. We think that they're going to come sell us something. They want all our money. They want to take our money and put it somewhere that we don't understand and charge us ridiculous fees. What do you have to say about that?
Well, first of all, not everybody in financial services is a financial planner, right? For me, my specialty is retirement. And my number one goal is for you to have the retirement that you want to have. Like I said before, the one that you've earned, the one that you can be respected about, and the one that you deserve. And so that's the biggest thing is I want to educate you on what you already have in place. And then I want to educate you on the products that are out there so that you have the best fit for you. Like one of the companies that I represent, they have a product that has what we call living benefits, which is different than long-term care. But the nice thing about the living benefits is it can help protect you whether you get a chronic, critical, or terminal diagnosis. If you don't need that, there's always the death benefit that still will pay out to your family. And if you do it on the side of having the cash value that's built up in the policy, you can turn that into a guaranteed tax-free income stream. So there's so many benefits to that product. It's super complex, and it's not cheap. It is one of the products that you do pay for, but like anything in life, you pay for what you get, and if you want to have a Cadillac or a Mercedes Benz or whatever it is, it used to be like the Cadillac was what everybody was comparing things to, but if you want to have like the Tesla of financial service products, that living benefit life insurance is something for people to take a look at. And I know there's a lot of people out there, a lot of financial advisors that are on the air and, they're on TV or whatever, and they may not like those products, but we live in a different environment now than they might have been brought up in. And like we were talking about earlier, is people are going to have 20, 30, maybe even 40 years in retirement. And Now with modern medicine, if you don't die suddenly, you're going to experience some sort of health care that you need to have for a significant amount of time. You know, if a married couple is healthy at 65, there's a 25% chance that one of them will live until they're 91.
Wow.
And most likely that's going to be the woman, because we typically outlive the men in our lives. And so if the woman is not educated on what they have, or hasn't been around to make the financial decisions for these types of products, then they don't even know that it's out there. I mean, the saddest thing is when you hear about women, or even men too, that are in their 80s and 90s, they have to go live with their kids, right?
Yeah.
It's like, nobody plans, that's not financial freedom. That's not something that you sit down with your person and you're like, I want to plan to go live with my kids when I'm 80. Like,
when I turn 83, I'm going to move in with my grown children. That's my retirement plan. So I don't have kids. So you know what? That's not a retirement plan. Although I do have a niece, Molly, bless her heart, that she says she'll take care of Auntie Mary when I get old. But I don't have children. So that's like not even an option for me. And I know a lot of people that are in their late 40s that don't have children. So that's not even an option. So we really have to make sure that we're planning for our retirement years.
Right. And then the other thing I want to talk about real quick is, so I always talk about this with women, because if your husband, like if you're married and if your husband gets sick, you don't really have a problem with taking care of him. Most women don't. Like I would take care of my husband, right? But I do not ever want my husband to be having to take care of anything down there that doesn't have to do with us having a good time, right?
Yeah.
I can say that on your show, right?
Yeah, oh, totally. We keep it real. It's casual and conversational and authentic. You're right. So wives would just take care of our husbands, but probably going to be like, no, husband, you're not going to take care of me down there. I'm going to get some help to come in, right?
Right, exactly. And they don't want to either. I mean, I know my husband doesn't want to have to do that. So thankfully, I'm getting hot over here talking about my lady parts.
I love that this show just went way over there.
No, but seriously, these are things we have to talk about when we're talking about, you know, you mentioned your dad's all about the long-term care. That's something that I'm sure if he has on himself, he has on his wife, right?
Yeah.
Whether that's your mom or
my stepmom, yeah.
Your stepmom, right. So, I mean, definitely it's like, you want to make sure that that's taken care of, but you also want to know what you have, because sometimes those policies are expensive. And so if the husband passes first and the wife isn't educated on that, that could be something that she let lapse, and then she might need it the most, you know? So these are just conversations, again, that we have to have that are real, honest conversations. That is why it is always good for you to have that trusted professional that can go in there and help educate you. Yes, they're probably do want to sell you a product. You know what? But it's a lot of times it's for your best interest. If they're there to educate you, if they don't explain how the product works and you want to know how it works, then they might not be the right person for you. And that's the thing. It's like you got to find somebody who is going to meet you where you're at. And with the transfer of wealth happening over the next few years, one of the things that I'm really working with my agents, men and women, is how to be more effective at selling those products to women so that they really understand that. Because we're different than men. We don't want to just, like, I know my husband, if he wants to go buy a TV, he'll do all the research. He'll go to Best Buy and buy the TV, right? For me, I don't want to do that. I want to, like, go look at it. I might go
touch it.
I want to touch it, feel it. I got a lot of questions about it, right? And then also we always like to look for the best price, right? Most women, they want to like
haggle.
Can we have a coupon on that? Right.
So that's the same thing with, so I was telling you, you know, I've got this new MacBook Pro. It was a big purchase. I started looking for it last February. I was like, do I want the 13? Do I want the 15? How much memory? You know, it actually took me till November. It took 6 months for me to decide that I was going to make this purchase. Like you said, a man would be like, oh, I want a new laptop. Let's go to the Apple store and buy it.
Right. And like, let's not even talk about clothes, right? When we go shopping for something, my husband's like, okay, I want a suit. I need to go. This is where I need to go. Try it on, get it fitted, done, right? I buy like 5 dresses and then I end up returning 3 or 4 of them, right? Like, okay, I found the one that I want, but I got 3 or 4 backups just in case.
Just in case. Or this one was on sale. I really like the $70 one, but maybe the $35 one will fit and look just as great. So yeah, we are the shoppers. I have to say that we are looking for that bargain. right? So why are we not doing that with our retirement? Why
Exactly.
are we not looking at the big picture, and why are we not looking for that? Not necessarily the bargain, but why are we not investing and spending our money in our retirement? Because God knows that, probably for the cost of our shoes, right?
Yes.
Or the lattes, or the manicures, or whatever your vices. We all have them, and I am not judging, because these right here, this is an every 3-week thing, and I'm not giving it up. I'll probably give up Starbucks and make coffee at home before I give up, doing my nails. And all joking aside, like, we all have something we spend a lot of money on.
Right.
What if we cut that in half just to start? Like, what if you just cut that in half and started that with your retirement, or adding that?
Yeah, for sure. And then the other thing too that a lot of people don't really talk about is they might do a great job accumulating money, like in their 401ks or whatever vehicle they're using. They may not talk about a distribution strategy. And that is one of the most important things that you want to focus on when you're looking at retirement, is how are you not only
what's a
going to
distribution strategy?
Right.
Don't you just take the money out? It's yours, right?
Well, you could do it that way, but then it's going, like we were talking about like earlier with that example, right? I said if you saved $12,000 a year for 20 years and you got a 4% compound, you'd be able to take out almost $18,000 a year. That's $1,500 a month that you'd have to be paying taxes on, right? So $1,500 a month that you pay taxes on. Well, as you take it out, guess what happens? That balance goes down. So it's only going to last you for 20 years. Unless, of course, you put something on there that gives you the protection. And that's where the insurance comes in. And that's why, some of the plans that are out there, they don't have that protection where you have something where you can turn it into a guaranteed income stream. So there are so many vehicles and so many products out there. And that's why it is great not only to have the tax person, the bookkeeper, the financial person, you also want to make sure that your financial person is a retirement expert if that's what your goal is. Because not everybody is. Some financial people are great with accumulation. They're all about getting you to accumulate. Some people are great about putting, they're great with like the real estate industry. They want to really put you into products that are going to be backed by real estate. Some people are really about a lot of people, like especially the millennials now, I know that they're really big about investing in causes, right? So if it's something that's going to be environmentally safe or, whatever their cause might be, that might be what they're going to be investing in, which is awesome. And they could probably have some great benefits from that. And a lot of great companies are coming out that are really specializing in that. But when we're looking at retirement, you got to look at where are those income streams going to come from. I'll go back to my paychecks and paychecks, right?
I love that term. That is so fun. I want to make sure I have a good paycheck.
Right.
My paycheck, I want to be on the lake, right? On a newer boat than what we have. And I want to continue to get my nails done. And I'm sure it's going to get more expensive, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, definitely you want to make sure that you have those different distribution strategies set up so you can know exactly how much is going to come out of these different areas and you know what that money is going to. We briefly talked about healthcare. I just want to circle back around there real quick because there is something that I found. It's not for everyone, but it works really well for us, and it's called Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share. It is a plan that is, it's a group plan, but it's not a group plan for people who have regular JOBs. It's for people like us that are entrepreneurs. We were paying about $1,200 a month.
What?
For our coverage through the, we're outside of the, whatever it's called, the marketplace. We had to go outside of the system.
$1,200 for the four of you?
Yes. Actually, it's only for three of us because our nephew had a different plan. So it's for the three of us. We were paying about $1,200 a month. And we had to do something different because we never were sick. We just went and did our checkups. We didn't have any, we had our little one who has his yearly physicals and all that kind of stuff. But really, we don't have any I have a pre-existing thyroid condition. That's it. And then everything else is just really healthy. We're healthy, And so, we did some research and we found this Liberty Health Share, and it is like a group plan for people who all put into the system. I don't know that much about it because, again,
I've heard about some other plans like that. Like there's a Christian group plan.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Is it? Okay, so like it's the Christian group health plan. So if you're an entrepreneur or solopreneur and you're like, I need health care, maybe you're on Covered California and you're like, you don't want to be on that. There are other options out there. And I have heard about the Christian group health plan. I, again, don't know that much about it, but I know someone in CWEN, Christian Women's Entrepreneur Network Group, they know, they have the information, and Hawley, you could probably share your information
right.
In the comments if anyone was interested. I think that would be really great to put in the comments for people.
Yeah, for sure, because, you know, it is, we went from paying $1,200 to now I think we pay $485 a month. Yeah.
That is awesome for the three of you.
Yeah. And
That's
it's great. It's great insurance too. I mean, we have had, you know, even with that $1,200 a month, we had a huge deductible. I think it was either $2,000 or $3,000 that we had as a deductible. Now we have, we don't really have a deductible. You just send stuff in and then they cover a portion of it and we have to pay for the rest just like we normally would.
It's kind of like everyone pooling their money together to buy a car and you share it. It's just really about pooling the money together like you were a big company. Even though you're not. So
yes,
I understand the concept and I've heard really great things about it. So thank you for bringing that up because I know that that's a concern for a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners. Like just having health insurance can really just, you know, take a big chunk of your monthly budget.
Well, and that's something to consider too, because the number one cause for bankruptcy for our elderly is health issues. Yeah. They're not protected. They don't have the right coverage for Medicare. They don't have the right health plan set up.
Yeah.
That can take them down. You have one big thing that's not covered. That can take down your entire savings. And so, you know, those different things that I was talking about, the inheritance, the trust, the probate, I do want to talk a little bit more about the inheritance because since that is a big hot topic that's coming up over the next couple years, I really want to make sure that, you know, if you know you're going to get an inheritance, you want to start talking to not only the people you're going to be inheriting the money from, whoever they use to manage their money, you also want to make sure that you have a plan on what you're going to do with it. Right? I have a gal who I was just working with recently and she's like, yeah, my parents, they're not going anywhere anytime soon, but they have told me that I'm going to inherit about $800,000 and I don't know what to do with that. You know, she's a teacher. She lives on a pretty modest budget. And so she's even though she makes great money, she has some plans to pay off her house and do some other things. She doesn't know what she's going to do with that money. She doesn't know where she wants to put it. She doesn't know what she's going to need it for. But one thing she might need it for, since she has longevity in her family, both of her parents are in their 80s, she might need it to make sure that she's going to be well and healthy into her 80s. And so those are some things that you want to think about when you're looking at if you're going to have an inheritance. Yes, that can help you with your retirement. Yes, it can help you, but you want to have a way that you're going to receive that and what you're going to put it into so that you can make sure that... You
got to plan for it. Just like with anything else in life to be successful, you've got to understand it, do your homework, and do some planning.
Right, because the other thing, too, is you got to know, is it a tax-free? Like life insurance, that transfers tax-free. Where like if it's somebody's retirement account, you're going to have to pay taxes on it. If the person is older than 70 and a half, you might have to be taking out minimum distributions, even though you're not. So everything, again, you have to have a plan for it, and you also need to be able to talk about it, right? It's been such a taboo for us to talk about money with our parents or with our girlfriends or with our family members, but it is really something important that we need to talk about so that we can make sure that we know how we're going to inherit that and how we're going to be able to do the best with it, right? Because you don't want your money, you never want your money or any money that you're going to inherit to go to probate, because that just gets the courts involved, and it's definitely not the most best efficient use of your money and time.
Right. I love it. I love that you're talking about the inheritance. I know I have some friends that they inherited money like from their mom. I have a friend that inherited money and property from her mom, and then she's talking about how she's going to transfer that right to her son.
Right.
And like, well, you need to think about, what does that look like? What are you transferring? What are the stipulations, So it's just a conversation that you really need to have. And you guys, let's not be embarrassed to talk about money, finances, debt, bankruptcy, inheritance. If you're getting an inheritance, that's great. There's no reason to not talk to somebody about it. But I also want to encourage people to have dinner time talks, or lunchtime talks, or brunch talks, whatever you're with your family and friends, to open up a dialogue and just start openly talking about finances, what your goals are, where are your finances at, where do you need help. I just want everyone to be able to talk about money and it not be a dirty thing.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. The other thing too is like budgeting. A lot of people just don't even know how to do a budget. So if you want me to send you a budget, just drop your email address into the comments, or you can private message me or whatever.
Or you guys just type in the word, I guess, maybe give me the budget, and then Hawley can message you. And if you want to put your email in the comments, go for it. But if you don't want to share your email, we totally respect that. And you can just message Hawley and she'll go ahead and send that to you. That is awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I just use a Excel sheet or Google.
Yeah, that works.
I use Google Drive.
Some people just don't remember everything they spend their money on. That's a really good way to find extra money to save. I don't know. I've been on a lot of diets in my life, like real diets where I don't eat the right things, like the cardboard and stuff like that. One time I was on a diet where they had me track everything that I ate. I recommend you do that for 3 days with your finances. Every penny you spend, write it down. And the other thing too is if you can do it, spend cash for like 7 days and track what you spend it on. Because now that we use credit cards and ATM cards and all that, we don't even think about it. Like you'll spend $5 at Starbucks 3 times a day and not even realize that you just spent $15, right?
That's probably everyone's biggest thing is oh my gosh, I didn't realize I was spending, $30 a week at Starbucks.
Right. So keep that diet list or your money list for a few days and see where you can save some money, because a lot of times people are like, well, I just don't have the extra money to save. But I bet if you were really diligent about figuring out where you're spending your money, you could find an extra $25, $50, $75, maybe even $100 a month to start putting away. And a good rule of thumb too is if you're in your 20s, you need to be saving at least $200 a month. If you're in your 30s, $300, $400 in your 40s, $500 in your 50s, and $600 in your 60s. So, those are just really good areas to start. And you probably need to do more than that if you haven't started saving already. Right. You probably have to double or triple that. There is a lot of data I can give you about the person who starts saving at 20 opposed to the person who starts saving at 30, how much they need to save to catch up. So that's all stuff that we could talk about next time.
I've seen some of those things and I love it. When, if at 20 you start saving this, I have a friend whose son, she's like, okay, if you start saving X amount now, you can retire when you're 50, if he wanted to. So I love that kind of stuff too. Well, Hawley, it's been so great having you on the show. I can't believe it's almost 8:00. Did you have an event that you wanted to share with everyone that was coming up? I think we talked about that.
Yeah, so part of what Mary mentioned in the beginning is that one of my businesses is Wow Women of Wealth. And for those of you that that are entrepreneurs and just want to have more, better, different in your life, I would challenge you to come take a look at wowwomenofwealth.com. We have our retreat coming up June 18th through the 21st. It's in Orange County, California. Every year we bring in great speakers and we talk about different things. This year our theme is Rise. So we're going to be working on, how do you rise in your finances? How do you rise in your business communication, in your social media, in your marketing plan, whatever area that you need to rise in, we will have something there for everyone. We have incredible guest speakers.
And it's not just for financial planners, right?
No.
I just want to make sure everyone's clear. It's open up to anyone who just really wants to rise and to learn more about their finances. And it sounds just kind of like a not help, but self-improvement type conference retreat.
Absolutely. And the best part every year is that we do a service project. And so we go on a school campus and we beautify the campus. We give back to the area that we work in. So
love
last year
that.
we were in Texas last year and we did a project down there, and this year we'll be doing one in Orange County.
I
So
love that. I love any company that gives back because, I love to volunteer and give back. It's something that's near and dear to my heart. Well, that's great. So you guys, if you have any questions for Hawley on this financial stuff and the insurance stuff, just drop your questions in the comments and Hawley will go back, tomorrow and answer your questions. And if you want that budget sheet, just type in, give me the budget.
Yep.
You can drop your email. She'll send that over to you. And if you want information on Women of Wealth, let Hawley know. Please connect with her on my favorite platform, which is LinkedIn, which, Hawley, you've said that you've been really getting the value out of using LinkedIn, right?
Yes. So I worked with Mary like 3 years ago almost now, and I'm finally using everything that she taught me on all of my recruiting and everything that I'm working with.
I'm so happy to hear that. And you guys, I just want to wrap up by saying thank you. Thank you for tuning in because I know that you're a busy entrepreneur and you can find us here the first and third Wednesdays of the month at 7 p.m. And don't forget to tune in for Monday Motivation with Mary every Monday morning at 7 a.m. I don't know how I do it, but I'm up and I'm on for 7 minutes or less giving you your motivation tip for the week. Thank you so much for joining us and I'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye.